Okay, let's talk about something that feels, well, just fundamentally broken in our justice system. It's all about money, fairness, and this big question: does the punishment really fit the crime for everyone? We're going to dive into why a simple, flat fine might just be one of the most unfair parts of the whole system. So think about this for a second. Let's say you got a simple £100 fine, maybe for a minor traffic thing. If you're earning, say, $20,000 a year, that £100, wow, that could be your entire food budget for the week, gone. It's a really painful, significant penalty. But what about the person earning $2 million a year? For them, that same £100 fine is, well, it's basically nothing. A rounding error. The cost of a bad bottle of wine. The number on the ticket is the same, but the actual sting of the punishment, totally different. And that right there gets us to the heart of it, doesn't it? I mean, if the whole point of a fine is to make you think twice, to make you feel the consequence, is a system of flat fines really doing its job? Is it actually fair? All right, let's break this down. To really get a handle on just how big this problem is, we've got to look at the issues baked into our current system of fixed penalties. And this isn't just about one person's feeling of fairness. This is about whether the entire system is actually working at all. So a huge piece of the puzzle is this wild concept called zombie fines. Seriously, these are financial penalties that were put on the books years, sometimes decades ago. You know, a £100 fine from 1990 sounds the same today, but with inflation, its real-world value, its actual power to make someone think twice, has just been completely worn away. The punishments are literally getting weaker every single year, and nobody's even had to change a law. And you see this failure at both ends of the spectrum. For these massive corporations, a multi-million-pound fine for, say, polluting a river, well, that's just seen as a cost of doing business. It can literally be cheaper to pay the fine than to fix the problem. But then you look at the other end. A standard £100 penalty for filing your taxes late can be absolutely crushing for a low earner, someone who might not even owe any tax in the first place. The system just isn't deterring the rich, and it's hitting the poor way too hard. Okay, so if the current system is so broken, what's the fix? Well, there is an alternative. It's a proportional solution. And you know what's so interesting about it? It's not some crazy new theory. It's an idea that's already up and running and working in lots of places all over the world. It's called a day fine system. And the idea behind it is actually super simple and, really fair. Instead of a flat number, the penalty is based on how much an offender makes in a day. The whole point is to make sure the punishment has an equal sting, an equal impact, no matter if you're making $20,000 a year or $20 million. And like I said, this isn't some brand new, untested idea. It's a really well-established practice. Countries all across Europe have been using this system for years. Get this, Sweden started using income-based fines all the way back in 1931. So yeah, this is a tested, proven way of doing things. Okay, but the big question is, does it actually work? Right? Does it make the whole justice system better? Well, let's take a look at the evidence from some real-world experiments. And you might be surprised where some of the best evidence comes from: the United States. Yep. Way back in the late 1980s, a court in New York City ran this pilot program that became pretty famous, the Staten Island Day Fine Experiment. And the results? They were absolutely staggering, especially when it came to people actually paying up. Under the old flat fine system, 22% of fines just never got paid. But when they switched to day fines, where the amount was based on what people could actually afford, that non-payment rate just plummeted, all the way down to 6%. But here's the real kicker. It wasn't just that more people paid their fines. The court actually brought in more money overall. The total amount collected went up by 14% in that first year. So think about that. The system was fairer, and it was more effective financially. It's a win-win. The evidence out of Germany is also incredibly powerful. They looked at first-time offenders who committed similar crimes. For those who got day fines, only 16% reoffended within 5 years. Now, compare that to the group who got short prison sentences. 50% of them reoffended. That's a huge difference. It really suggests that a smart, well-structured fine can be a way better deterrent than sending someone to jail. So, okay, the evidence is pretty clear. It's fairer, and it seems to be better at actually changing behavior. But there's another massive argument for fixing this, and it's all about the money. Let's talk about the incredible amount of cash our current system is just leaving on the table. Let's go back to those zombie fines. Just look at one example. The standard £100 penalty for filing taxes late. That was set back in the 80s. If that fine had just been updated for inflation, it would bring in an extra £122.5 million every single year. Okay, now let's apply that same idea to the magistrates' courts. Right now, they issue about £325 million in fines a year. But if those fines had just kept up with inflation since the early 90s, that number would be more like £850 million. That's a gap of £500 million just gone. And it's the same story with local stuff too. Just by updating parking fines for inflation, local authorities could be pulling in an extra $210 million a year. So when you start adding all of this up, the hidden cost of just doing nothing becomes crystal clear. We're not even talking about new penalties here. This is all money that's just vanished because our fines have been allowed to shrink in value. A conservative guess, we're losing around £900 million every year. And that's just step one, just fixing the inflation problem. Because what we see from other countries is that switching to an income-based system could bring in another $400 million to almost £1 billion a year on top of that. And why is that? Because for the first time ever, fines would actually have a real, meaningful impact on people with higher incomes. But this brings us to what's really at the heart of all of this. Because it's not just about smart policy or how much money is in the bank. It's about something way more fundamental. It's about trust. It's about the relationship between the justice system and all of us. The source material we've been looking at puts it so well. It says a system where a fine can ruin one person's life, but means absolutely nothing to another, that isn't justice, it's theater. It's like a play, a performance of justice. And after a while, people just stop believing it's real. But when a penalty actually feels the same for everyone, something really important starts to shift. The law starts to feel legitimate again. And when people believe the system is fair, what happens? Well, more people follow the rules, there's less resentment, and you can start to rebuild that public trust, piece by piece. At the end of the day, a healthy society, a healthy democracy, it runs on trust, right? Trust that the system isn't rigged. Trust that the rules are for everyone, not just for the people who can't afford a good lawyer or can't just pay to make a problem go away. A system of fines that makes the consequences real, no matter how much money you have, is a huge step toward earning that trust back. So we're left with this question. We have a system that could be fairer to everyone, that could be better at stopping crime, and that could raise a lot more money for public services. A system that just works better for everyone. Really, shouldn't that be the goal? Shouldn't that be the default?